Across the quiet skies of Earth, a single alien ship floated in silence. It was hidden behind layers of cloaking fields, invisible to human eyes or radar. Inside, dim blue lights flickered across metal walls as screens displayed live images of Earth. Cities glowing at night, planes crossing clouds, and people moving like tiny sparks of life. Inside that ship sat Xeric, a spy from the Valerian Dominion. His mission was simple: observe humanity. The Dominion had detected Earth's growing radio signals and wanted to know if this small blue planet posed a threat. Xeric's job was to study humans before the High Command decided whether Earth should be conquered or ignored. He sat quietly in front of a large holographic screen, recording voices from Earth's radio networks. "Humans are strange," he muttered. "They talk constantly. They argue, laugh, sing, even when alone." The alien's gray eyes narrowed as he analyzed data. His people, the Valerians, were logical and cold. They followed orders without emotion. To them, emotions were weakness. But humans were nothing but emotion. At first, Xeric found them foolish. They fought wars among themselves. They wasted energy on art, music, and stories. "Primitive," he said to his recorder. "Emotional, chaotic, unfit for galactic order." But then, something began to disturb his certainty. As he continued watching, he saw soldiers pulling their wounded comrades from battle zones, refusing to leave anyone behind. He saw doctors working without rest during disasters, saving lives of people they didn't even know. He saw firefighters running into burning buildings when others ran out. None of it made sense to him. Why would a species risk everything for others? What logic was there in sacrifice? Still he kept watching. Every day humans surprised him again. Then one night an alert beeped on his console. A distress signal. It came from deep within a mountain range, a collapsing mine. The signal carried panic, shouts, and cries for help. Xeric zoomed in through his surveillance drones and his screens showed chaos. Dust clouds rising, machines overturned, and dozens of miners trapped underground. To the Valerians this would have been a death sentence. Efficiency dictated that such lives be abandoned. But what Xeric saw next made him freeze. Dozens of humans, men and women, rushed into the collapsing tunnels. No weapons, no armor, no hesitation. They tied ropes, carried stretchers, and shouted orders through the smoke. "Get them out. Keep digging. We don't leave anyone behind." Xeric leaned forward, eyes wide. "These are rescue teams? Voluntarily entering danger?" he whispered. "They could die." Minutes turned into hours. The rescue teams dug with their hands when machines failed. Some coughed from the dust, some collapsed from exhaustion, but none left. Every time one miner was pulled out alive, the humans cheered, hugged, and went back for more. Xeric felt something inside him, something he had never felt before. His people had erased emotions long ago. Yet now, as he watched humans fight death itself to save each other, he felt uneasy. "They are irrational," he said softly, though his voice shook. "But they do not stop." On the screen, one rescuer, a woman covered in soot, was seen helping a child out of the tunnel. She smiled even though her face was bruised. "We got you," she said to the boy. "You're safe now." The boy hugged her. Xeric paused the feed and stared at the image for a long time. Something about that moment burned into his mind. He opened his log recorder again. Observation 77. Humans exhibit extreme illogical bravery. They protect others without benefit. Their courage is not rational, it is terrifying. He sat back in silence, unsure what to feel. For the first time, Xeric wondered if his superiors were wrong. Maybe humanity was not weak at all. Maybe their strength came from something the Dominion could never understand. Hours later, as the last survivors were pulled from the mine, Xeric zoomed out from his view of Earth. His scanners showed thousands of human rescue signals across the planet, people helping, saving, rebuilding, every single day. He realized something chilling. If these creatures ever turned that courage toward war, no empire could stand against them. But his mission was clear. He was to report to the Dominion in 2 cycles and prepare the invasion analysis. The data he had collected could decide Earth's fate. He hesitated. Then his ship's sensors caught movement. Another explosion deep inside the mine. The humans were still down there. The tunnel was collapsing again. Through the smoke and dust, he saw rescuers running back into the mine. Not away. Xeric rose from his chair. His mind raced. "This is madness," he said aloud. "They will all die." But they didn't stop. For a long time, he stood there watching as humans dug with their bare hands, shouting, refusing to leave even as the earth shook around them. Something inside him snapped. He grabbed his cloak module, activated his disguise system, and looked one last time at the blue planet below. If I am to understand them, he whispered, I must see them with my own eyes. He stepped into the transporter pod. The blue light surrounded him, humming softly. A moment later, the cloaked alien vanished from orbit, heading toward the surface of Earth. The sun rose slowly over the mountain valley, casting a pale orange light over the rescue site. The mine was still smoking, the air thick with dust. But for the first time in days there was silence. The trapped workers had been saved. Humans rested around fires, drinking from metal cups, bandaged and bruised but smiling. Xeric walked among them quietly, still wearing his human disguise. Every laugh, every pat on the back, every handshake, it all felt unreal to him. He had seen many planets and many species, but none like this. The Valerian Dominion called humans a developing species. Chaotic, emotional, unpredictable. Yet what Xeric saw here felt like something far beyond that. They had faced death together and somehow won. Still, in the air hung a strange tension, something Xeric couldn't name. He looked toward the mine entrance. Engineers were trying to stabilize it. Captain Mara stood there, helmet under her arm, watching them. You're still here? She said when she noticed him. Xeric nodded. I want to understand. She smiled faintly. You sound like a scientist. I suppose I am, he replied, carefully choosing his words. I study behavior. Then you picked the right species, Mara said, her tone half serious. Humans are full of behavior. Good and bad. Her smile faded as she looked at the ground. We lost 3 men yesterday. They saved lives. But it never gets easier. Xeric didn't know what to say. In the Dominion, loss meant statistics, not sorrow. But here, every name mattered. Every death left a hole in the hearts of many. He wanted to ask why they kept risking themselves, but he already knew the answer. Because they couldn't stop caring. Hours passed. The rescue operation turned into cleanup. Then suddenly the ground rumbled again. A deep, rolling sound like thunder echoed through the valley. Everyone froze. Aftershock, someone yelled. The ground split open. Rocks tumbled from the mountainside. The mine groaned, then collapsed inward, swallowing the entrance in a storm of dust. People are still inside. Mara shouted. Xeric looked at her in disbelief. You cannot go back. It's unstable. She turned toward him, eyes fierce. I won't leave them. Before Xeric could stop her, she grabbed her helmet and sprinted toward the collapsing mine. Others followed without hesitation. Xeric stood there torn. Logic screamed that entering meant certain death. But his chest tightened, and his mind replayed every moment he'd seen, humans rushing into danger, saving others, never stopping. He clenched his fists. Then he ran after them. Inside the mine, chaos returned. Dust filled the air, lights flickered, and oxygen alarms beeped. The tunnels were caving in one by one. Xeric's disguise flickered from the heat and dust, but no one noticed. He used his alien strength to lift fallen beams, pushing rocks aside. Humans shouted orders, pulling out trapped workers, coughing, crying, shouting names. Mara. Xeric called, searching through the smoke. He found her helping an injured miner crawl to safety. The tunnel above them cracked again. Go, she yelled to the others. Get out. But Xeric stayed beside her. The air trembled as the ceiling gave way. A steel beam fell, aiming straight for him. He froze. Then, someone shoved him aside. The beam crashed down with a deafening roar. Xeric turned and saw a man pinned under it, the same rescuer who had smiled at him the night before. Xeric knelt beside him, his hands shaking. You saved me, he said quietly. The man coughed weakly. Guess so. Why? Xeric asked. His voice cracked. You didn't even know me. The man gave a faint smile. Didn't have to. You were right there. He closed his eyes. The light in them faded. Xeric froze, staring. Around him, humans cried out as they tried to lift the beam, but it was too late. Something inside him broke. He had never felt grief, not truly. But now he understood it like a knife in his chest. He rose slowly, his human disguise flickering again. His gray skin flashed through the illusion, but no one noticed in the chaos. He grabbed the beam and lifted it with unnatural strength, shocking everyone nearby. Move them out, he shouted. His voice was deeper, almost inhuman. Mara looked at him in surprise but didn't question it. They worked side by side, dragging the wounded toward the exit. Every breath burned, every sound echoed with pain. Finally, they stumbled out of the collapsing tunnel just as the mine caved in completely. Behind them, a wall of dust and smoke rose into the sky. Outside, medics rushed forward. Survivors coughed and gasped for air. The humans gathered around the man who had saved Zurich. They spoke softly, laying a blanket over him. Mara stood beside Zurich, her face pale. "He saved your life," she said quietly. "Yes," Zurich whispered. "He saved me." She looked at him, confused by his tone. "You act like you didn't expect that." "I didn't," he said truthfully. "Where I come from, no one would." Mara studied him for a long moment. "Then I'm sorry for where you come from." Those words pierced him deeper than she knew. That night, the camp was silent. No laughter. Only the crackling of small fires. Zurich sat alone, staring at the stars. His ship was still up there, invisible. Watching. Recording. He activated his recorder, but his voice trembled as he spoke. Observation 108. Humans fear death, yet they face it without hesitation. One gave his life for mine. I cannot understand it, but I feel it. This emotion, they call it courage. It frightens me. He looked up at the night sky, his eyes reflecting the stars. The Dominion would never understand this. They would see it as weakness. But Zurich knew now, this was their power. Humans were not strong because they were fearless. They were strong because they faced fear, and acted anyway. Cliffhanger. Far above Earth, the Valerian High Command received Zurich's latest report. Their reply came instantly. Prepare final analysis. The invasion of Earth begins soon. Zurich stared at the message, the light from his screen glowing on his face. He whispered to himself, "They have no idea what courage truly is." And for the first time he wondered if he could stop what was coming. The morning sky over Earth was calm, too calm. But Zurich's heart was not. The alien spy stood on the edge of a rocky cliff, staring at the horizon where the sun was rising. He could feel it, the silent hum of engines beyond the clouds. His people were coming. He had sent the report days ago, warning the Valerian Dominion not to attack Earth. He told them humans were unpredictable, emotional, and brave beyond reason. But the Dominion didn't believe him. They saw humans as a threat, a wild species that must be controlled before they became powerful. Now, as Zurich looked at the sky, he saw the faint shimmer of incoming ships. His worst fear had come true. He turned and ran toward the rescue camp. People were busy repairing damaged tunnels, cleaning debris, and checking medical supplies. They didn't know. They had no idea death was descending from the stars. He found Captain Mara near the comm tent, giving orders to her team. Her uniform was torn and dirty, her face pale from exhaustion, but her eyes were steady. "Captain," Zurich said, trying to catch his breath. "You need to listen to me. Right now." She frowned. "Zurich? You look like you've seen a ghost." "It's worse," he said. "Much worse." When she saw the fear in his eyes, she motioned her people to step back. "Talk." Zurich hesitated. For a moment he considered lying again. He could still run, hide, and wait for the invasion to end. But something inside him refused. He couldn't betray these people, the ones who had risked their lives for strangers, the ones who had shown him what courage really was. "I'm not from Earth," he finally said. "I came here from orbit, from a species called the Valerian Dominion." Her soldiers tensed. Hands reached for weapons. Mara didn't move, but her eyes narrowed. "An alien?" "Yes. A spy." Zurich raised his hands. "But I am not your enemy anymore. I came to study humans, to report if you were a danger to my empire." Mara's voice turned cold. "And what did you report?" Zurich swallowed hard. "That you are the most dangerous species I've ever encountered, not because of technology but because of your courage." A long silence followed. The soldiers stared at him as if he'd gone insane. Then someone laughed nervously. "You expect us to believe that story?" Zurich didn't answer. He pointed toward the sky. "You will, soon." At that moment, a deep rumble rolled across the air. Everyone looked up. The clouds twisted unnaturally, glowing faint blue. Then, like cracks of lightning, massive shapes appeared above the atmosphere, dark metallic giants with burning engines and crimson lights. The soldiers froze. Mara's jaw clenched. "What are those?" "My people," Zurich said quietly. "They've come to destroy you." Mara didn't panic. She turned to her team and barked orders. "Get the evac teams ready. Get the Air Force on alert. I want every base to report in." Her people ran in all directions, shouting into radios, loading supplies, and activating emergency beacons. Zurich couldn't believe it. No screaming. No chaos. Just discipline, speed, and unity. "You knew this could happen?" he asked, amazed. Mara didn't look at him. We always prepare for the worst. That's what keeps us alive. Within minutes, the camp transformed into a command center. Maps flickered on screens, soldiers coordinated with nearby cities, and drones lifted off for reconnaissance. Then Mara turned to Zurich. If what you're saying is true, then help us. You know their tactics. Zurich hesitated. If I help you, they will mark me as a traitor. Then pick a side, Mara said sharply. Because when those ships open fire, there won't be time for choices. He looked at her for a long moment, and then nodded. I'll help. As the day turned to night, the first waves of invasion began. Massive Valerian landing ships entered the atmosphere, their hulls glowing with heat. The air trembled from their engines. Zurich worked beside human officers, showing them how Valerian targeting systems worked, how their shields rotated, and where the weak points were. He sent false signals to confuse the approaching fleet. Are you sure this will work? A soldier asked. It has to, Zurich said. Or your planet is finished. Over the radios, reports came in. Cities evacuating, military bases powering up, pilots taking to the skies. The world was uniting in real time. Humanity for once stood as one. Mara stepped beside Zurich, watching radar screens fill with red dots. They outnumber us 100 to 1, she whispered. Zurich looked at her. Then you'll need 100 times the courage. She smiled faintly. Good thing we're human. Outside, sirens wailed. The sky turned crimson as the first alien energy beams cut through the clouds. Explosions lit up the horizon. But humanity did not hide. Fighters launched, missiles streaked upward, and anti-orbital cannons roared. From the ground to the heavens, Earth fought back. Zurich's heart pounded. He saw the unthinkable, a species standing together not out of fear but defiance. He turned to Mara. You were right. I chose the right side. She met his gaze. Then help us finish this. Cliffhanger. As explosions echoed across the world, Zurich's ship in orbit received a new order from the Dominion High Command. Target locked on major human cities. Prepare for full planetary cleansing. Zurich stared at the message, his blood running cold. The next attack wouldn't just destroy a camp, it would wipe out humanity itself. And now only he could stop it. The night air was cold and the smell of smoke still clung to everything. The mine had finally gone silent. Nothing left but ruins and exhausted people. The survivors sat together, wrapped in blankets, their faces streaked with dirt and tears. Zurich stood apart from them, staring into the darkness. His human disguise flickered again, fading around the edges. The holographic field was weak now, but he didn't care. He couldn't stop thinking about the man who had died saving him. That single act had shattered something inside him. In the Dominion, no one risked their life for another. Self-preservation was law. Loyalty existed only through fear. But here, on this strange blue world, life meant something else. He looked up at the stars where his invisible ship orbited, and a message flashed on his wrist device. Report required. Earth evaluation nearly complete. Submit invasion readiness data within 1 rotation. Zurich stared at the words for a long time. He could already imagine what would happen next. Valerian warships descending on the planet, vaporizing cities, crushing resistance. He looked back at the humans tending to each other, patching wounds, sharing water, comforting those who cried. He had seen many advanced civilizations. None of them had hearts like these people. He couldn't let them be destroyed. Captain Mara approached him quietly. Her uniform was ripped, and her hands were still shaking from exhaustion, but her eyes remained sharp. You haven't said much, she said softly. You look like you've seen a ghost. I have, Zurich replied. His voice was low, almost trembling. A man died to save me. She nodded. He was one of the best. He'd do it again too. Zurich turned to her. But why? You humans fight wars, destroy your own lands, argue endlessly, and yet you also risk everything for each other. You confuse me. Mara gave a tired smile. We're complicated. But when it matters, we don't run. That's what it means to be human. Her words lingered in the cold air. Zurich looked down, struggling to keep his disguise steady. And if something powerful tried to destroy your world? She stared at him. Then we'd fight. Even if we had no chance, we'd still fight. He met her gaze, and for the first time he saw no fear in her eyes, only determination. Later that night, as the camp settled into uneasy sleep, Zurich slipped away into the woods. The wind whispered through the trees as he activated his communicator. A blue holographic figure appeared, Commander Vora, his superior in the Valerian fleet. Report, Agent Zurich, Vora said, his voice cold and metallic. Is the species a threat? Zurich hesitated. They are not what we expected. Explain. They are dangerous, Zurich said slowly, but not in the way you think. Their strength is not in weapons or technology. It is in courage. In the way they protect one another. If we attack, they will not surrender. They will fight until the end. Commander Vora tilted his head. You sound impressed. I am warning you, Zurich replied. If we provoke them, the consequences will be. Vora interrupted sharply. Enough. Your duty is to provide data, not opinions. The invasion will proceed as planned. Send your coordinates for targeting verification. Zurich's stomach dropped. Targeting? You're beginning the assault. Yes. Within 3 cycles, Earth will belong to the Dominion. The transmission ended. The hologram faded, leaving Zurich in silence. He stood there in the dark forest, heart pounding. The Dominion was coming. And no one on Earth knew. The next morning, Captain Mara found him near the river. The early sun glimmered on the water, but Zurich's face was pale and distant. Something's wrong, she said. You look like you haven't slept. Zurich turned toward her slowly. He knew he couldn't lie anymore. The humans deserved the truth. Mara, he said quietly, I am not who you think I am. Her eyes narrowed. What do you mean? I'm not from this planet, he said. His voice shook. I came from the Valerian Dominion, a galactic empire beyond your stars. I was sent here to study humans, to decide if your world should be invaded. She stared at him, disbelief flooding her face. You're joking. He took a deep breath and his disguise flickered out completely. His skin turned gray, his eyes glowed faintly blue. The air seemed to freeze. The soldiers nearby shouted in shock, reaching for their weapons. Mara raised a hand to stop them. Wait, she said. Her voice was calm, but her eyes never left Zurich. You saved us in the mine. Why reveal this now? Because, he said, his voice breaking, the invasion is coming. My fleet is already on the way. You have little time to prepare. A wave of silence passed over the camp. No one spoke. The sound of the river seemed deafening. Mara stepped closer. Why are you telling us this? Because I can't let it happen, Zurich said. Your courage, your compassion. You don't deserve to be destroyed. You deserve to live. For a long moment she said nothing. Then, slowly she extended her hand. Then help us, Zurich, she said. Help us survive. He looked at her hand, dirty, human, strong, and something inside him changed forever. He took it. That night, under the stars, Zurich sent one last message to the Dominion. He encoded it in a false report, hoping they wouldn't notice until it was too late. Subject evaluation complete. Earth species is unstable and unpredictable. Recommend postponing invasion pending further analysis. But even as he sent the false data, he knew it wouldn't stop them for long. The Valerians would come. They always did. Mara stood beside him, watching the stars. If they're really coming, she said, then we'll show them what humans are made of. Zurich glanced at her, feeling something strange and powerful, something he had no word for. Courage, he whispered. That's what you're made of. She smiled faintly. Then let's make them afraid of it. Cliffhanger. High above Earth, far beyond the moon, shadows moved in the void. The first wave of Valerian warships slipped out of warp space, dark, silent, unstoppable. And aboard one of them, Commander Vora smiled. Target locked. Begin Phase 1. The invasion of Earth had begun. The world was burning. The skies above Earth glowed red as the Valerian fleet descended through the atmosphere, thousands of black ships breaking through the clouds like a metal storm. Cities trembled. Mountains shook. Across the world, humans watched the heavens and knew, this was not a drill. This was the end. In the command center, alarms blared. Captain Mara stood over a glowing table map, her jaw tight, her eyes sharp despite the exhaustion. Zurich stood beside her, translating alien codes and intercepting transmissions. Sweat rolled down his forehead as his trembling hands flew across the control panel. They've locked targets on your largest cities, New York, Moscow, Beijing, Islamabad, Zurich said. His voice was steady but his chest felt heavy. Once they fire, nothing will survive. Mara clenched her fists. Then we hit them first. She turned to her team. Launch the Sky Lances. Activate orbital defense stations. Tell every pilot, every drone, to give them hell. The command center erupted with motion. Officers shouted into radios, typing fast, giving coordinates. On giant screens, human warships rose from the oceans, hidden bases, and mountains, black silhouettes of human steel, armed and ready. High above, in orbit, the Valerian flagship Tyrannes hovered like a shadow over the planet. Admiral Calrix watched Earth coldly. "They resist," he said with disgust. "Primitive as they are, they dare to fight us." An officer replied, "Shall we begin the cleansing, sir?" Calrix nodded. "Do it." The massive energy cannons began to charge, bright light gathering at the ship's core. But then, something unexpected happened. Every targeting system flickered. Screens turned static. The charging energy failed. "What happened?" Calrix barked. "Unknown interference," the officer yelled. "Our guidance systems are corrupted." On the ground, Zurich exhaled shakily. "It's working," he said. "I'm inside their targeting network. I've delayed their firing cycle, but not for long." Mara leaned over his shoulder. "How long do we have?" "Maybe 5 minutes." She grabbed the radio. "All units, this is Captain Mara. The aliens are vulnerable. Repeat, they're blind for 5 minutes. Hit them with everything you've got." Across the planet, missiles launched from silos, submarines, and orbital guns. The sky filled with streaks of fire. Every human pilot, every soldier, every fighter moved with the same thought: protect Earth. Explosions ripped through the clouds. One Valerian ship burst into flames and fell from orbit, crashing into the sea with a thunderous boom. Another exploded in the upper atmosphere, scattering burning fragments across the sky. For the first time, humanity scored a victory. But it didn't last. "Admiral," shouted the Valerian officer, "our systems are back online." Calrix slammed his clawed hand against the console. "Target Earth's military command centers. Burn them to dust." From space, massive beams of plasma rained down. Cities shook. The ground split. In the human command bunker, the walls rattled as the Earth roared. Zurich fell to the floor, grabbing his head. The psychic link to his species screamed in his mind: commands, anger, betrayal. They knew what he'd done. "Zurich," Mara shouted. "Stay with me." He forced himself up, his skin flickering with faint blue light as his alien body fought the pain. "They found out. They know I'm the traitor. They're sending a hunter drone for me." Mara stepped closer. "Then we protect you." He shook his head. "No. I can end this. I can overload their command ship's reactor, but I need direct access." Mara frowned. "That ship's in orbit." "Then I go there," Zurich said quietly. "Alone." She stared at him, realizing what he meant. "You won't make it back." "I know." He smiled faintly, a strange human-like smile. "But maybe, this is what courage feels like." Minutes later, a human stealth shuttle lifted off from an underground launch pad, racing through the sky toward space. Inside, Zurich sat alone, wearing a human flight suit. He looked out the window as Earth grew smaller beneath him. "Humans," he whispered, "you were never the weak ones." The shuttle broke through the atmosphere. Valerian fighters tried to intercept, but Zurich used every code he knew to disable their sensors. He weaved between burning wrecks, plasma beams flashing past him, until the flagship loomed ahead, a dark, spinning fortress above the clouds. He guided the shuttle straight toward it. The docking port opened automatically, his old clearance code still worked. He entered the ship quietly, moving through corridors filled with smoke and alarms. His people were in chaos, trying to repair systems damaged by human attacks. None of them noticed him until he reached the main reactor chamber. Admiral Calrix turned, his eyes glowing red with fury. "You," he hissed. "You betrayed your own kind, for them?" Zurich faced him calmly. "For truth." Calrix snarled. "You think these animals deserve mercy? They will consume the stars one day." Zurich shook his head. "Maybe. But at least they fight for each other, not for power." Calrix raised his weapon. "Then die with them." Before he could fire, Zurich slammed his hand on the reactor control. The core flared white. Sirens blared. Energy surged. "Warning," a mechanical voice said. "Reactor overload imminent." Calrix lunged forward, but the blast caught him mid-stride. The entire ship erupted in blinding light. From Earth's surface, people saw a second sun bloom in the night sky. The Valerian flagship exploded silently, scattering fire across the heavens. The rest of the fleet panicked, leaderless, blind, and disoriented. Human forces struck hard, pushing them back until the survivors retreated into deep space. Hours later, silence returned to the skies. The invasion was over. Earth had survived. In the days that followed, humans mourned their dead but celebrated their victory. They built monuments to the fallen, and to the mysterious ally who had helped them. In the rubble of the rescue camp, Mara stood alone at dawn, looking at the rising sun. She whispered softly, "You came to study us, and you became one of us." Above her, among the morning stars, fragments of alien metal glimmered faintly. And somewhere across the galaxy, whispers began to spread among other civilizations. Do not mistake Earth's kindness for weakness. Their courage is beyond reason. And their bravery is terrifying. Zirich's ship hovered high above the mountains, invisible to every human eye. The alien spy stepped into the transporter, heart pounding in a rhythm he didn't understand. His kind didn't feel fear, yet as the light swallowed him, he felt something close to it. In a flash he appeared on Earth. Cold air struck his face. Snow drifted across the dark mountain slopes. Below, floodlights flickered over the entrance of a collapsed mine. Dozens of humans worked in chaos. Machines roared, shouts echoed, and dust filled the air. Zirich activated his disguise, a light holographic field that made him appear as an ordinary human. He adjusted his jacket, mimicking what he had seen on their broadcasts. His translator implant turned every language into words he could understand. He walked toward the scene, pretending to be one of them. "Hey, you there?" a voice shouted. Zirich turned. A woman with dirt on her face and fire in her eyes ran toward him. Her name, stitched on her torn jacket, read Captain Mara Holt. She was tall, strong, and covered in mud, but her presence commanded respect. "You're the reporter, right? From the city?" she asked. For a second, Zirich hesitated. Then he nodded quickly. "Yes, I'm observing." "Good," she said, handing him a flashlight. "If you want to help, follow me. We're not leaving anyone inside." Before he could answer, she was already running into the darkness. Zirich followed. The tunnels were narrow, filled with smoke and the sound of cracking rocks. Humans dug with their hands, their faces covered in sweat and tears. Some coughed, some bled, but none stopped. Zirich watched in disbelief as a man tied his broken leg with a rope and kept working. Another handed his oxygen mask to an injured miner. "This is madness," Zirich whispered. A rescuer beside him looked up. "What?" "Nothing," Zirich said quickly. He helped move a piece of debris. Its weight surprised him. His alien body was stronger than theirs, but he pretended to struggle. The humans smiled at him, grateful. "Good job, buddy," one said, clapping his shoulder. That simple touch, warm, human, made Zirich freeze. He didn't know why it mattered, but it did. Hours passed. The rescue continued. Zirich recorded every detail in his memory logs, whispering quietly when no one was near. Observation 89. Humans push beyond all logic. Exhausted, injured, hopeless, yet they continue. It is not intelligence. It is something else, something dangerous. He looked around. Humans shouted names, counting those still trapped. 5 left inside, someone yelled. "Then we keep digging," Captain Mara ordered. Her voice carried over the rumbling ground like thunder. The team obeyed instantly. No hesitation. No fear. Zirich couldn't stop watching her. Every word she spoke carried power. When she smiled, others found strength again. When she fell, they lifted her up. He had never seen leadership like this. Not in the Dominion, where soldiers followed orders only because of fear. Here they followed her because of faith. A tremor shook the tunnel. Dust rained from above. Rocks began to fall. Someone screamed. "Everyone out. Now," a rescuer shouted. But Captain Mara stayed behind. She grabbed her flashlight and ran deeper into the collapsing shaft. "There are still people inside." "Captain, no." Without thinking, Zirich chased after her. The tunnel cracked open. Beams splintered. The ground buckled beneath their feet. Mara found 2 miners pinned under debris. She tried to lift the beam, gritting her teeth. Zirich joined her. With his alien strength, he pushed harder than any human could. The beam snapped free. "Go. Get them out," she yelled. As they carried the miners out, the tunnel behind them collapsed completely, sealing off the path. The air turned thick with dust. When they finally reached the surface, medics rushed forward. Survivors coughed, cried, and clung to each other. The night air was cold, but the humans' relief warmed everything around them. Zirich stood still, staring at the sky. He had seen battles, death, and destruction, but nothing like this. They had risked everything for strangers. He turned to Captain Mara, who was sitting on a rock, wiping blood from her hands. Her uniform was torn, her face pale, but her eyes burned with quiet strength. "You could have died," Zirich said softly. She looked at him and smiled faintly. If someone's still down there, you don't think about that. You just go. He blinked, confused. Why? Because they do the same for me, she said simply. Her words hit him harder than any weapon. Later that night, the camp grew quiet. Survivors rested around fires. Xeric sat alone on a rock, staring into the flames. His recorder blinked softly beside him. Observation 94. Humans form bonds that defy logic. They are not united by fear or power, but by trust. This is unsettling. I feel something unfamiliar. Guilt, perhaps. He looked at his reflection in a puddle. The human disguise flickered for a moment, revealing his gray alien skin beneath. He quickly reactivated it, but the sight unsettled him. For the first time, he wasn't sure which face felt more real. Above them, unseen by all, his ship orbited quietly, receiving orders from the Dominion. The message was short and cold. Continue your research. Prepare for contact. Earth will soon be tested. Xeric's chest tightened. He closed the communicator and looked back toward the rescue camp, where laughter and relief filled the air. Humans were celebrating life after death. He envied them. He had come to study them. But now he realized something terrifying. If his people ever came for Earth, the humans would fight. Not out of hate, not out of pride, but out of courage. And that courage could destroy them all. Cliffhanger. As the night sky burned with stars, Xeric looked toward the heavens, where the Dominion's warships were already moving. He whispered to himself, if they come, the humans will not surrender. And somewhere deep inside he hoped they wouldn't.